Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Bob's Live, our weekly show right here on the internet. And well, this week we are going to kind of continue in the same vein as the last episode. We're going back to school. It's that time of year, so I thought it would be a great opportunity to kind of go back to school here at Bob's. So, first up this week though, it has been bloomin' rainy out today. So I thought today would be a great day to talk about mums and their water requirements. So let's learn about some mums. So I'm here today with Dr. Puppo from Marshall University, and she is curator of the Herbarium, which is where we're sitting right now. If you could, tell us a little bit about what an herbarium is.
Right. Well, thank you. Thank you, John, for coming to visit. Nice to meet you, everyone. So, a herbarium is a plant museum, basically. So, a lot of you might be familiar with normal museums where you go and see rocks or stuffed animals or skeletons or these kind of things. So the way we preserve plants is a little bit different. So if you've never seen how plants are pressed, this is a typical plant press. As you see, it's nothing really fancy. You can make this at home. And so you just need some cardboard. This is some blotting paper that helps with the drying process. And then what you do is we just collect a plant, in the field. And we'll put them, and sometimes they stick, you can see. So we put them in a piece of newspaper with some of these cardboards in our press. We tie these with some ropes, and then we put it to dry in a plant dryer. You can use a very low temperature oven. And then the end result is these dry, flat plants that then we glue into these cardboard sheets. Mm-hmm. And so you turn around, I can show you here some of our cabinets. This is the one that I always show, and I want you to smell it.
Oh yeah.
What does it smell like?
Dried plants.
This is the Lamiaceae.
Yeah.
This is the mint family.
Yeah.
And so here we have the mints, the oreganum, lavender, all of these very aromatic plants that are in the same group.
Very herby. Yep.
Right. And so that's why I usually show these to students, because you can really smell them. And this is one of my favorites. So this is actually collected in Ecuador, and you can see how fussy it is. This one is covered in hairs. And so this is how a dry plant looks like in our collection. And you see all of our cabinets are filled with these dry pressed plants, right? And so each plant or each branch or part of the plant will go in this standard size cardboard. And it will have a label. And labels are very, very important because, as you can see here, you know where this plant was collected. In this case, it was in Ecuador. The name, what kind of plant it is, the family, where it was collected, in what kind of habitat. And it might have some other information. If it has a medicinal use that can also be recorded in the label. This one in particular was collected in 97. So some of the young viewers were not even born in time. And so, as I said, the herbarium is 100 years old. And so we have some specimens that are 100 or older. And we have here things from all over the place collected at very different times. And so that allows us to do a lot of things with these plants. Okay. Now let's just turn around. As I said, Marshall is the second largest plant collection herbarium we have in the state with 50,000 specimens. But we not only have plants in here, we also have some other collections like fossils, mosses, lichens, fungi. Well, mosses are plants. Fungi are not. Algae are not. I'm just going to show you here our fossil collection. And fossils, as you can tell already, they have to be stored differently, right? And so they're quite heavy, so we usually put them in these trays. Each one of these fossils are in their box. They also have a label. They have to have a label, right, of where they were collected. So this was collected in 48. This one comes from, where is this one? Does it say where is it from? Pennsylvania. So this was collected in Pennsylvania in 1948. And you can see these are very, very different specimens. So this is a specimen of a tree, right? An extinct tree. And the way you know or you study these fossils is by these kind of prints of the surface of the trees. So this is where the leaves used to attach. And this is what these scars are. And so people studying taxonomy of fossils, this is the kind of things they focus on. And so we have a pretty nice collection here of fossils. We have some leaves in here. Most of these fossils are also from this area, so West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio. We have about 1,000 fossils in this collection. As John mentioned, one of the previous directors who was here for 40 years was an ethnobotanist, which means he studied the uses of plants by native tribes, and he worked in Ecuador. And so some of the things we have here from the collection are these spears. You can see some feathers in here. So these spears are used by natives in some of these Ecuadorian tribes in the Amazon to hunt. And so a lot of these have frog poison in the tips. Don't touch them. And we even have a dart shooter in here. It's a little bit fragile, but you can see it. It's very long. And if you see the tip here, this white tip, that's a monkey bone. And so this is the mouthpiece. That's where they put in their mouth. And the darts that are usually poison too are shot by the other end. And so these are part of our ethnobotanical collection here at the Herbarium. And let me just open another cabinet and show you a couple more things that we have. So we have another arrow here. This one is probably a monkey tail. And so you can see some of the details of these. We also have some headpieces. These are toucan feathers. And you can see the inside is made of plants, plant material. And of course we have, this is a belt. And these are the ones that will make noise when they put them around their waist. And all of these are seeds from different plants. We have some necklaces also made with plants, some seeds, and some teeth. Our best guess so far, it's a wild pig. And so you can see we have other things in here, all of this from plant origin. So this is the ethnobotanical connection we have here. And we even got a machete made in Colombia. Okay, let me bring you this side. So this is our moss collection. Mosses are plants. Everybody's familiar with mosses. And you see mosses are like little cushions, right? So we cannot really press them flat like with the other plants. So we usually store mosses in packages. And so we have them in these little boxes, each one of them in their own package. Each package again has the collection label, which is very important. But this is how we store mosses. So we still dry them, but we cannot really press them flat. So that's how we store them. And we have about 3,000 specimens of mosses in the herbarium here. Let's show you one more.
Yep.
This is how we store fungi. Fungi are not plants. Actually, fungi are more related to animals than plants. Surprise, surprise. But before, when people started doing herbaria and plant collections, they didn't know this. So they thought fungi were more kind of plants things. And so that's why they kept them together with the plants in the herbaria. And that tradition kept on. And so usually fungi are part of herbaria. And this is how we store fungi. Sometimes we will have the substrate with them, like these are fungi that grow on stems or barks,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's how we store them. Sometimes we might have some more, let me see if I find some mushroom like, if you wish, and so in those cases we can store them in their own bag, so kind of outside of their substrate. This is a nice one. And so again, we cannot press these flat, right? But still, every collection has to have a label because we need to know what they are, where they're coming from. We need to have this information from the specimen. And so this is how we store fungi. And you see some very nice old cigar boxes. Come quite handy for some of these collections. And so these are some very tiny little things that we have in here. I don't know if you can see it, but very small. So in, I think between 2012 and 2018, Marshall got a grant from the National Science Foundation to digitize most of our plant collection, which means photographing and making them available online. And so I'm just going to briefly walk you through here. This is our digitization station. So it's basically a light box.
Okay.
We will put the specimen, those flat specimens that you saw, we will inside. We will turn this on, and then we will put a camera on top of this stand and take a picture of the specimen. And we will record the information on the label from that specimen, and all of that is available on the website. So Marshall was part of the Southeastern Herbarium database. It's called CERNEC, S-E-R-N-E-C, CERNEC. And so you can find, I think 95% of our plant collection is digitized and available through CERNEC. And so that also allows researchers throughout the world to see our collection and search our collection. That has facilitated a lot, making our specimens available. So before these kind of digitization efforts, people will have to come and visit and go to many different institutions like ours to see the plants.
Yep.
They still need to do that because sometimes you have to see the things in person, right? But now with these, it allows them to see what we have. If they need to come, they will come still. Sometimes they can ask for loans, so they can send me an email, and I can ship that specimen to them for a couple of months, and then they'll return them. We do the same, so that's also part of what Herbaria does, right? We make specimens accessible for researchers all over. And this one here, it's our little library. We have some scientific journals, periodicals here, a lot of loose articles, because remember that Herbarium is about 100 years old. At the time, we didn't have internet when the Herbarium started. And so the way people got access to articles was they would just write a letter to the author, and they will request a paper print of their article, right? And you will get just that article, just like you do with PDFs today and email, but at the time it was letters, right? And so all of these are articles, scientific articles. We have them organized by plant family. So if you want to look for some articles we might have on the mint family, you can come and look for the name of the family and find the box and see what we have. Why do we keep these if we have now everything in PDF? Well, because a lot of these articles are older, and you might have to pay to get access to them online today. And so it's very valuable to have these, especially the older ones that might be difficult to get access to online. And we also have some books. We have a section of books that are not in English. We have a section of books in Spanish. We have a section of books on medicinal plants, plant uses. We have some very old dictionaries. This is your Google right here. So I don't know how old is this one, but you can tell it's quite heavy. They are beautiful. I really, really like them. And I'm just going to show you a couple more things behind here. So these are some letters from the foundation of this museum. in the 1920s. And so these are some of the very old documentation we have for the herbarium. And so when the herbarium started, the professor in charge at the time, Dr. Gilbert, started sending letters to different institutions in the US, asking them for some spare specimens and some other things that might help us build our collection here. And so these are some of those original letters. So if you can see, this one is from 1927. So here in the herbarium, we not only have plants and fungi and these kind of things, but we also have very important documentation that have that are historically relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just show you a couple more things I have in here. So before we started herbaria as we have them today in cabinets, people will collect their plants in books, and they will form these herbarium books. And this is what these two are. And so this one is from 1926. It was done by this man, Edward Ditch. And he was a native from here, Huntington, West Virginia. And the interesting part about this one is that this is algae. So this herbarium book is on algae. And it was kind of a trend at the time. They will mix different specimens on the same sheet because of artistic reasons or style. But you can see they name them still. So we have 3 different algae in this sheet. And he put the number in there and he put the name of them. And you can see some more information of the specimen here, very faint. These are very fragile, so that's why I'm just going to show you one in each so that I don't have to be bending. We have to be careful. Remember, these are museum specimens. And so when we handle plants in herbaria, usually you want to keep them flat. You don't want to do this because things might fall apart if you do that. This one is a little older. This is from 1896. And most of these plants, these are plants. This book just contains plants. This is just algae. You can see here they have handwritten the label, and look how pretty that handwriting is. And we have different things in here, common name, the Latin name. So every plant, like every living thing, has 2 names in Latin, right? Just like for humans is Homo sapiens. Each plant has their own Latin name, which if you've traveled and lived in different countries come in very handy because common names are tricky. And so every plant has a Latin name, and that's what it's reflected in here. And so this person is from Kentucky, but we don't know much more about this. It's just very, very pretty. Let me just show you one more thing here. So this is the prep room of the herbarium. As you can imagine, each one of these museums need a place where we can prepare the plants, right? So we have another room here in the corner of this corridor in the building where we have a big freezer where we freeze everything that comes in, because we need to do a freezing treatment not to bring in pests or bugs or insects into the collection. So we need to decontaminate them first before they can come in here. So first we press them, then we dry them, then we freeze them, and then they can come in here. And this is where we will glue them to their cardboards. We'll make the labels. All of this paper we use in a museum is acid-free because they have to last long without getting yellow and without deteriorating. So we use museum quality material. So all of that is in here. But here I've also put some other things. Very old glassware. Remember, this herbarium is 100 years old, so we have some of that in here. We also have some floppy disks. So for the younger ones watching this is how you run computer programs at a time.
Oh,
back in the day, you had to do punch cards and then feed them to a machine to get your program to run. And this is how programming used to be. And so when I started and I found this, I had no idea what these were. They had to explain it to me, so now I'm explaining it to you. And this was the result of your program. So we have a couple of those in here. We have a lot of floppy disks. If you've never seen floppy disks, a lot. These hold 1.4 megabytes. Wow. I haven't thrown these because I really like the vintage stuff. You can see some vintage microscopes here. An electric typewriter. I found one of my undergrad students trying this out. They've never seen one of these ever. And so we have some of these vintage stuff in here. These you put on top of the specimen, and it's like a magnifying lens that you can see some of the details of the plant better. And then we also have some plant parts that are in slides. So this is for anatomy studies. So I don't know if you can see these. But these are sections of a leaf. Very, very thin sections of a leaf. So you can see some of the veins and other structures of the cell. Did you get it?
Mm-hmm. Got it.
So we have some of these for anatomical studies. You know, before DNA, people, still we do, right? But this was the main way of studying plants, doing anatomy, chemical analysis. Now we continue doing this, plus we also do molecular analysis with DNA. We also have some fruits here, that this is part of our dry fruit collection. We have things like coconuts that was actually sent to Dr. Evans for $4 from Florida.
That's great.
In 99. Dale, he's around on Facebook. So Dale, if you're seeing this, hi, this is your coconut. Sometimes they will even send leaves as postcards. And it's very, very faint. You can barely see it.
Mm-hmm.
But here is the address.
Yep.
And this is an actual real leaf, right? Stamp and all. I don't know when this is from, but you can even you don't even see the message anymore. It's completely gone. But we do have some. This is how we will store dry fruits in boxes.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot press these flat, right? And so we keep them in boxes. We have a lot of these. Do you recognize these?
I don't.
It looks like a milkweed.
Yeah.
And so in this case, these vials have a number, and then we have the labels in the box with the number that corresponds to that. Again, very, very important to have the labels, right? And I don't know what number 18. I'll have to look. Oh yeah, here. Yeah, so it's one of those.
Oh, okay.
What is the name of it? Milkweed, kind of. So seeds, fruits. We have some pickled. In this case, the alcohol has evaporated, but these are ginkgo ovules. Very stinky.
Yep.
We have some other leaves preserved in glass like this, again, so you can see the veins of the leaf and their structure.
Okay.
Very, very cool. There is one here that is kind of my favorite. This one. I love this one. Have you ever seen a fruit like this? So this is actually from New Zealand. It's a plant from New Zealand. And if you see, sometimes they sell the flowers as ornamentals here. There are multiple flowers in a stem, and each one of those flowers will form a fruit. Not all of the flowers will form a fruit, but you see this was a flower. And so we have a fruit from that flower, and so on and so forth. Right? But they look like clubs at it. They're great. And so we have, in our plant taxonomy classroom here at Marshall, we have another set of herbarium specimens representative of the different plant families, and 4 big plastic tubs with dried fruits. That's part of our teaching collection. So we have a dedicated set of these specimens for our students to see during our plant taxonomy classes. Okay. So we don't have a museum specimens coming out and coming back, you know. So we have a dedicated set of all of these things in the plant taxonomy classroom. Let me just show you one of these. I didn't know what these were until I had a tour here for the West Virginia Native Plant Society, and some of the older members told me, "Oh, that's a vasculum," and I was like, "Oh, what?"
Yep.
A vasculum. I was like, "What is a vasculum?" So this is how people collected plants before the plant press, right? So before that wood press I show you, this is how they do it. So they will put their plants inside, and they will carry these around. They can put straps in here, and they can just put them over their shoulder, and they have them in different sizes, as we have them in here. And actually, we even have in the London Natural Museum, they have Charles Darwin's vasculum. How incredible is that? Yeah, that's about it.
All right, there we go. I am just completely disorganized. I meant to do the mum segment first, but I got them switched accidentally. So that is a tour of the herbarium. So if you missed last week's episode, we were learning about plant taxonomy. And we went into kind of in depth about what plant taxonomy is and kind of looked at it from that angle. So this week we took a tour of the herbarium, which is a large plant museum. So it's important to be able to study plant specimens and have them in an organized collection. Now, of course, back in the day, it was just to have the specimens themselves to look at as far as their physical characteristics. But with the advent of DNA and DNA sequencing and all that technology, herbariums have become really important again because now we can study the DNA of those plant specimens. So yeah, I'm a little bit disorganized this evening. I had a doctor's appointment right before the episode started. Like, I just got back from the appointment, so I set everything up earlier in the day, and I forgot what order I put everything in. So, hey, it was a surprise. Anyhow, you can follow Bob's Live or Bob's Market on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and then we're also over on TikTok. As I was saying, though, before I started the wrong video, today is extremely wet. And the the forecast right now, let me try to bring up the weather here. There we go. Right now it's saying that it's 80 outside, but it doesn't really feel that way. But today we've got rain showers. Tomorrow it looks like we're going to clear up. And then Thursday and Friday we're going to be getting back into some clouds. And then Sunday it looks like our chance of rain is going to go back up. So looking at the long-term forecast, I think we're probably going to have a little bit of rain this weekend. Long-term forecasts, they're never really accurate. And I actually just scrolled down because, let me get back here to the page. that's not very accurate either. It's saying that it's sunny right now, and I am looking out at a massive dark cloud. So yeah, definitely not sunny right now here in Mason. And well, as I was saying before I inadvertently started the wrong video, it has been rainy today, but that means that it's a great time to talk about watering mums, because mums are a little bit unique in their water requirements. So let's hopefully take a look at that now. It's a pretty rainy day out today, which is actually the perfect time to talk about mums and watering them. The thing to keep in mind with mums is something simple. They like to have a dry head but wet feet. So what I mean by that is, generally when you're watering a mum in a container, you don't want to water the top of the mum. You want to water it at the bottom. So you want to use like a watering can or a hose where you can get in at the bottom of the mum to water it. And that'll help preserve the blooms a little bit longer. If you're transplanting your mum into a landscape bed, you don't have to worry about that as much, because mainly you just need to water the mum until it becomes established, and then it should be pretty good to go. Now, depending on where you live, here in Zone 6, mums, we kind of treat them like annuals, because it's about a 50-50 shot whether they'll make it through the winter or not. I have one at home that's about 3 years old, because I've just got lucky the last couple years and it survived. But I go into it knowing that there's always the possibility it might not make it through the winter. When it comes to picking out a mum in the store, I recommend finding one like this, where the blooms are just starting to open. That way you can see the bloom shape and also what color it is. But you have all of these buds down in here that have yet to open, so this is going to bloom for quite a while this fall. So I hope those quick tips were helpful, and of course you can always find out more on our website at bobsmarket.com. So that was some quick tips on watering your mums. And yeah, it's really that simple. You just kind of want to water the base of the plant, try not to get water on the leaves. And also you want to make sure that the water stays, or that the soil stays moist, but not overly wet. So you kind of want to water it and then almost let it dry out in between waterings, and then give it another shot of water. So, yeah, you don't want to let your mum dry out too much. And, well, that is all that I have for this week's episode. It was kind of out of order from what I had planned. Next week, we're going to continue on with the theme of back to school. But we're going to be switching gears, and instead of going to Marshall, we're going to be talking with someone that heads up an organization that focuses on kind of pushing kids and giving them the knowledge that they need about the horticulture industry. Because our industry is pretty awesome to work for. I mean, I'm surrounded by plants every day, which is, as a gardener, it's my dream. But yeah, it's a pretty awesome career field to get into, and a lot of students don't even know that it's an option. So there's an organization out there called Seed Your Future, and they're working on curriculum and different programs to help inspire uh, middle school and high school students to go into the horticulture industry. So, next week we're going to learn about that. And also, in this episode, right at the beginning of the herbarium tour, you saw a plant press. So, next week I'm going to show you how you can press your own plants and how you can create displays of pressed plants in your own home. So, until next time, keep growing.